So I always thought that I had the best relationship with my mom because we were so close. But one day, a cousin of mine who just gave birth to a girl told me that she strives to be like my mom and she wants to have the same relationship that my mom and I had with her daughter. And I looked at her daughter and I was horrified, and I just realized that I do not wish my experiences in childhood upon any other child, because now as an adult I have learned that a child needs so much more from their mom than just to be a friend. Hi, my name is Yelna. If you're new here, I talk about childhood traumas and I help you recover from unresolved childhood trauma and cultivate self-love. Today we're going to talk about mother wound. This is a very tricky topic because I've noticed there's a lot of guilt and shame surrounded, because most of us, we were raised in a culture that always taught us to be obedient towards our mother and fathers. And so when we realize that there are some unhealthy factors implemented in us as a result of our relationship with our primary caregivers, we tend to dismiss it, avoid it, and not even talk about it, because we don't want to be bad children. We don't want to be those bad daughters and those bad sons, But at the same time, all of these painful emotions are internalized, and instead of coming out and be processed in a healthy manner, we are just like holding on to it and kind of like self-attacking ourselves. This is the reason that mother wound often gets passed through generations and generations until one of us stand up and realize that this needs to end, and we end the cycle. Essentially, our first ever relationship that we have developed is the relationship that we have with our mother. As soon as we open our eyes, we see this figure and we instinctively believe that this figure is going to love us, protect us, and give us everything that we need in order to survive, and not only survive, but to nourish into healthy, functioning human being. So those primary interactions that we have with our mother influences our general mindset about who we are, what do we deserve, what do we need, and how do we feel. It's not all about how she treated us, it is also about how she treated herself, how she carried herself. Because we also learn a lot about emotions, about self-boundaries, respect, self-identity, and how we relate to the outside world from looking into our mother's behavior and behavioral patterns. A mother who has a lot of unhealed traumas, unprocessed emotions, and kind of trapped under this survival mentality ends up projecting all of this into their children, right? A mother who's been neglected from their own emotional needs ends up, and not knowing about it and not actively healing that part, may end up projecting those unmet needs and kind of neglecting their own children. A mother who has deep wounded emotional traumas end up becoming a mother who uses you as a supportive system, who uses you to comfort those pains. A mother who has unachieved desires or dreams may end up becoming the mother who projects those unachieved desired dreams into you and obsessing over your grades, obsessing over your achievements, setting up very high standards and expectations. These are all going to cause a very deep wound in children and causing them not to form a healthy, functioning, self-loving identity. So this is why we talk about it very openly, even though it's very uncomfortable and difficult conversation to have and difficult realizations. But we need to talk about this. For me personally, I would share openly about my relationship with my mother, because as I tell my story, I realize a lot of people felt similar, but they did not know that how unhealthy and toxic that kind of dynamic is for them and how it's affecting them as an adult right now. My relationship with my mom seemed very perfect. The reason that my relationship with my mom looked very ideal is because of how I've learned to survive with matching my emotions and kind of bringing myself into the same level to meet my mother's emotional needs. Everybody who saw me as a child were like, oh, Yelna is such a strong, easygoing child. She's so good. She's so nice. She's always there for her mother. She's so sweet, you know. So these are the things that they would see from outside. A very good girl, a good daughter, a good child. But what they were not able to see was that how, as being good, my own emotional needs as a child were being completely neglected and unmet. If by any chance I was just being a child, carelessly doing careless things and running around and just playing with my toys or with other kids and not paying attention to my mom's, to her state of being, then I was neglected. I was given silent treatment. She would kind of like shut down and retrieve back to herself. She wouldn't talk to me. She wouldn't engage with me. And I could see that I'm losing her. By doing so, she also kind of like separated me from my father. And without even noticing, it looked like I was on her team. I only had her. I belonged to her. I looked like an extension of her rather than being my own person, being a separate human being. You know, for survival, I had to learn how to read the room, how to read her body language, how to prepare myself for understanding her thoughts. Even though I was very young, I wouldn't know a lot of things that she was going through, but I had to mature up really fast. I had to catch up. You know, talking about her struggles, her marital struggles, if she was talking about her loneliness, she was talking about her friendships and lack of affection from my father, or any of these issues that a child really doesn't need to know. A child doesn't have the capacity to understand, but because that was given to me and I was put into that situation, so for survival I had to learn to mature up fast, and that slowly affected me because I felt very separated from children at my age. I couldn't connect with them anymore. So everything that she used as a coping mechanism to cope with her own unresolved traumas end up becoming my guideline into dealing with my own emotions as well as because my whole identity was to be my mom's support system. I would look for a relationship that they would need me to be there for them, right? So that kind of people-pleasing tendencies was already becoming part of my personality, that my whole existence was equal to providing something. That's how I'm telling that these things are very implemented from a very young age. But of course you're not aware of it, you don't know. You will start realizing at one point that these coping mechanisms that you used to survive at those young age is not serving you anymore. It's not functioning for you anymore. And it's okay, because those coping mechanisms were meant to help you survive when you did not know any better. Another thing that you may realize, that how you treat yourself as an adult is a very copycat strategy and approach of how your mother approached you. So even though if you are trying to implement healthy behaviors and new mindset, but because the approach that you're using is what the approach that your mom used, be it very strict, be it very judgmental, be it very lousy, be it very harsh. And if you do the same thing with yourself, you end up going back in the loop of self-sabotaging and not actually getting better. Essentially, healing mother wound goes back to just self-reparenting and inner child work. If you heard about inner child work, it is the work that you put into reconnecting back with the part of yourself that is still holding on to that childhood experiences that you've had with your mom, that child who still feels very neglected, the child who's still trying to seek mom's validation and unconditional love, the child who still doesn't know how to survive other than pleasing the mother, the child who is very afraid of disappointing the mother, right? It's a very difficult work of providing that space for those pain to be seen, looking at your inner child and finally allowing your inner child just to be the child that she needs or he needs to be. Finally giving your inner child the voice that she's never had. Listening carefully about what she has to say, the experiences that she had. Inner child work is a very tricky work and complex work of not judging yourself for the way you felt and for the way you've coped with your mother wound. I say this in all my videos, but stop and reflect. You need to first recognize and identify those unmet needs. You can't create a totally new reality for yourself when you don't know what are some of your unmet needs. What are the things that you needed as a child to help you feel seen, heard, and validated? When I finally realized that I have no idea about my emotions, I don't even know how I'm feeling, because that's how much I was separated from my own body and from my own reality. That's where I realized that my needs as a child to recognize my own emotions and feel my emotions were taken away from me. First few months of healing, I just allowed myself to acknowledge and just reflect on, I really don't know how to be there for myself. I really don't know how to have compassion for myself. I really don't know how to express myself, my authentic, real thoughts and feelings. Another unmet needs for me personally was lack of boundaries. I had no understanding about personal boundaries. I was so enmeshed with my mom that I felt relationships are supposed to be very intense and very closed. And so if anyone would create boundaries with me or would like to have some space from relationship with me, I would immediately feel rejected and neglected. Because to me, relationships meant this. This felt unsafe for me. Another very big pill to swallow for me regarding my mother wound was when I acknowledged that a lot of my self-hatred towards my body and body image issues goes down into how, again, my mom was treating herself and how much it was important for her to look good, because she would make me really aware of my big forehead. She would always point out that I have a really big forehead, therefore I need to cut bangs. For 20 something years of my life, I've always had bangs. Also, this is very cultural. Later on, I realized, when I was learning how to forgive my mother, I realized that this goes very deep into our culture. In our patriarchal culture, women are expected to look in a certain way to be accepted and to be loved and picked up to be someone's wife, So all of this was projected to me and transferred to me with my mother. The next big part of self-reparenting is becoming the healthy adult, the role model, the mother that you needed and you did not receive, because you might find yourself keep constantly going back and forth of becoming that inner child, being that inner child, and then you have to also be the parent, the responsible, loving, caring parent, so it's a very back and forth consistent work of allowing the inner child to be, allowing the emotions to be, the intensity of emotions to be embraced, at the same time being present, because inner child work is a lot with the past. You keep going back in with the past memories, and inner child is stuck in the past. But in your adult self, the healthy adult self that you're trying to create is in the moment, it's in the present. Creating healthy habits, being aware and intentional with your every decisions that you are making for yourself. And one last thing that really helps with healing mother wound is that cultivating self-love and self-compassion, in having that empathic approach, right? Totally different approach. Realizing that you are not your mother. You get to be a different person. You get to be a healthy version of your mother. That separation and cutting the cord, which I kind of refer to, you don't really have to cut connection, but in a metaphoric way, that you cut the cord, that you no longer have to be dependent on your mother and the relationship that you have with your mother in order to survive, right? For me, that really helped me, because when I was 10, my mom passed away. And I don't know if you read this book called I'm Happy That My Mom Died. That is really what happened to me and a lot of us out there. But a lot of people, a lot of my clients that talk to me, they still have that connection. Their moms still exist in their lives. So it's really hard to cut that cord, and they're still kind of in that toxic relationship with their mother. Even though you may still be in a relationship with your mom, you are a totally separate human being. So that separation is going to help you to create space for your own identity formation, to getting back with yourself and finding out who you really are authentically without the influence of your mother, right? And look at her as a wounded person. Look at her as a person who was very broken as well, and because of her broken pieces, you went through that experience, right? But you can't have compassion for a person if you do not have compassion for yourself. So self-love and self-compassion is really important before forgiving. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to talk about. I know this is a fairly new account and there's only a few of us here, but I truly appreciate your support. Please leave me comments and connect with me through my socials. And if you have any other topics that you would like me to talk about, go ahead and let me know. You can comment about it, or you can DM me, email me, however is comfortable for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I would love to see you on my next video. Take care. Bye.